Okay, so today I want to discuss something very important, and I think this is the most important question right now in the world. What happens if America actually invades Iran on the ground? Okay, so right now, as we speak, Donald Trump just gave a speech to the American people, and he said,
"Thanks to the progress we've made, I can say tonight that we are on track to complete all of America's military objectives shortly, very shortly. We're going to hit them extremely hard over the next 2 to 3 weeks. We're going to bring them back to the Stone Ages where they belong."
He said the economy is strong, America is winning, and we are going to hit Iran so hard we will bring them back to the Stone Ages. That's basically what he said. Now here's the thing. When a president says we are winning, it usually means they are not winning, okay? If you were actually winning, you wouldn't need to say it, right? So that tells you a lot about the situation already. And at the same time, and this is really important, the Secretary of War, Peter Hegseth, he came out and announced what he calls the Greater North America Strategy, okay? He says America will now control everything north of the equator, from Greenland to the Panama Canal, from Alaska to Venezuela. He calls it the security perimeter. So you're thinking, wait, America is already fighting a war in Iran that it's not winning. And at the same time, it's picking fights with Canada, Denmark, Mexico, Colombia, Cuba. It's threatening to take over Greenland. It just took Venezuela. Why is Trump doing all of this at the same time? People say, oh, he's an idiot. He's chaotic. He has no plan. And today, I want to argue the opposite. I want to argue that there actually is a plan, a very specific plan. And once you understand it, everything Trump is doing, including this war in Iran, starts to make sense. Okay, but first, let's talk about the ground invasion, because that's what everyone is asking about right now. So let me show you the map of Iran, okay? Iran is a very, very large country. It's about 4 times the size of Iraq, population of 90 million people. And when you look at the geography, the terrain, you immediately understand why a ground invasion is one of the most difficult military operations you could possibly attempt. On the western side, you have the Zagros Mountains. These are huge. They run all the way from the north down to the south. If America tries to attack from Iraq, which is the most obvious route, they immediately hit these mountains. And the mountains are perfect for guerrilla warfare. The Iranians can hide there. They can fire drones and missiles from there. They can disappear into the mountains and America can do nothing about it. If America tries to attack from the east, from Pakistan, they face massive deserts, extremely difficult to cross. And you're starting from very far away from Tehran, which is the main target. If they try from the south, from the Persian Gulf, they face more mountains and a very long distance to Tehran. So the geography alone tells you this invasion would be a nightmare. Okay. Now, America has about 50,000 troops in the Middle East right now. And I've said before, if you want to actually conquer and hold Iran, you need at least 3 to 4 million soldiers. America's entire active military is about 1.3 million. The math simply doesn't work. But here's something interesting. We are already seeing very strong signs that a ground invasion is being prepared. Okay. First, they are sending letters to military reserves telling them to get ready to deploy, fight, and win. Second, Polymarket, which is a prediction market where people bet real money on real events, is showing large bets that a ground invasion will happen. One person just bet $200,000 that an invasion will happen. And if it does, they win over $1 million. People who make bets like that usually have inside information. Third, and this is a bit funny, pizza deliveries to the Pentagon are exploding. Okay, this is actually a real thing. When the Pentagon is working overtime to prepare a military operation, the pizza orders go way up. And the gay bars in Washington are empty because the military staff are all working. So these are not small signals. Something is being prepared, okay? So let's use game theory. Let's ask, if America actually launches a ground invasion of Iran, what happens? Let me walk you through it step by step. Step 1. The invasion begins. America sends ground troops into Iran. Let's say they come in from Iraq through the Zagros Mountains, or they try to land forces in the south near the Strait of Hormuz. The first thing that happens is that Iran activates its ground defense plan. And I want to be very clear about this. Iran has been preparing for a ground invasion for 25 years. Not 5 years, not 10 years, 25 years. They have underground bases deep inside mountain ranges. They have missiles and drones stockpiled in places America doesn't even know about. They have weapon systems specifically designed to destroy helicopters, destroy tanks, destroy supply convoys in mountainous terrain. Remember, In this air war, which has been going on for weeks, Iran has only been using one group of underground missile bases. There are many, many more underground bases that haven't even started yet. So imagine how much firepower Iran still has waiting underground. The Americans will go in. And at first, CNN will say we are winning. We took this area. We destroyed this base. And for a week or two, it will look okay. But then, just like the air war, reality will start to show itself. The terrain will slow everything down. Supply lines will be cut. Drones will start hitting American convoys. Every American helicopter that flies becomes a target. Every fuel truck becomes a target. Every supply ship in the Gulf becomes a target. This is exactly what happened in Vietnam. It's exactly what happened in Afghanistan. It's exactly what happened in Iraq after the initial invasion. America is very good at the first punch. It's the fight after the first punch that always destroys them. And Iran has specifically studied this. For 25 years, they have been studying American military strategy in Vietnam, in Iraq, in Afghanistan, and they have built their entire defense plan around the weaknesses they found. Step 2, the economic collapse begins, okay? Now this is the part most people are not thinking about carefully enough. When the ground invasion starts, what do you think Iran does with the Strait of Hormuz? They mine it. They destroy tankers. They hit GCC oil installations simultaneously. They've already said their goal is to push oil to $200 a barrel. Right now it's around $100, so they push it to $200. But it's not just oil. Let me show you what actually comes through the Strait of Hormuz. Because most people think it's just oil and gas, but it's much more than that. Phosphate comes through. Ammonium, sulfur, urea. Do you know what these are? These are the basic ingredients for fertilizers, okay? This is food production. If these things stop flowing, farmers around the world cannot produce food. This is not about expensive gas. This is about food shortages. This is about people not having enough to eat. Also, and this surprised me when I first looked at this, helium and sulfuric acid come through the Strait of Hormuz. And these are critical for making semiconductors. Semiconductors are what power everything. Your phone, your computer, AI. If the flow of these materials stops, semiconductor production slows down globally. And that means the AI industry, which is propping up the entire American stock market right now, starts to collapse. JP Morgan has already said that by mid-April, the world could run out of oil if this continues. Think about that. The world's largest bank is saying we could run out of oil, not in 5 years, in weeks. So when ground troops go in and Iran escalates fully, you get $200 oil, food shortages, semiconductor shortages, and the global economy goes into a depression, not a recession, a depression. Step 3, the American empire loses its foundation, okay? This is the deepest part of the analysis, and I want to explain this carefully because it's not obvious. You've heard me talk before about the petrodollar system. Let me explain it very simply. Since 1973, all oil in the world is sold in US dollars. Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states agreed to only sell oil in dollars. And in return, America protects them. Because everyone needs oil, everyone needs dollars. This creates permanent global demand for the American dollar. This is how America finances its $39 trillion debt. As long as the world needs dollars to buy oil, America can keep borrowing money and keep its economy going. It's a Ponzi scheme, but it works as long as the Gulf states are stable and keep selling oil in dollars. Now, who owns the most American debt? Japan, China, Taiwan, Singapore, Hong Kong, India, and Europe. Basically, Asia and Europe. And where do Asia and Europe get their oil from? The Middle East, the GCC, the same countries that are now under attack. If the ground invasion happens and the GCC collapses, if Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar are destabilized, they stop selling oil in dollars. They can't. The infrastructure is destroyed. And then Japan, China, South Korea, Europe, they can no longer trust the petrodollar system. They start moving away from US dollars. They stop buying American debt. And if they stop buying American debt, America's $39 trillion Ponzi scheme collapses. The dollar loses its value. American interest rates explode. The stock market crashes. The AI bubble, which is built entirely on cheap money and Gulf state investment, pops. This is not a small problem. This is the end of the American empire as we know it. Okay, so now I want to do something fun. I want to put on my thinking cap, okay? Because you're probably thinking, this is all a disaster for America. Trump is an idiot. He has no idea what he's doing. He's going to destroy America. But what if, And stay with me here. What if this is exactly the plan? What if Trump actually wants to destroy the American empire? What if he wants to collapse the old system? And what if he's doing it on purpose so that he can replace it with something new? I know this sounds crazy, but let's use game theory. Let's follow the logic, okay? So look at this. When the Strait of Hormuz is closed, when the GCC collapses, when Middle Eastern oil stops flowing, who benefits? The world still needs oil. It still needs food. It still needs energy. It doesn't just disappear. It has to come from somewhere else. And where is the somewhere else? North America. Okay? The United States has a lot of oil. Canada has enormous oil reserves. Trump just took Venezuela, which has the world's largest proven oil reserves. Mexico is right there. Also food. The United States produces massive amounts of food. Canada produces massive amounts of food. Ukraine and Russia produce a lot of the world's grain. And America is trying to end that war too. Also fertilizer. If the Middle East's fertilizer supply is cut off, where does Europe and Asia go? They go to North America for nitrogen. They go to North America for food. So America starts a stupid war in the Middle East that it can't win. The Middle East collapses. And suddenly, Europe, Japan, South Korea, India, China, they all become much more dependent on North America for energy, for food, for fertilizer. America loses the war, but America wins the resource game. Does that make sense? Okay, let's go deeper. Now, why does Trump need all of North America? Why is he threatening Canada, taking Venezuela, fighting over Greenland, threatening Mexico? Because he's building a fortress. Okay, Peter Hegseth called it Greater North America. I call it the Technate. It's a self-sufficient economic bloc. North America has everything it needs: oil, food, water, minerals, manufacturing potential, two oceans protecting it on both sides. While the rest of the world collapses, while Europe runs out of energy, while Asia fights over resources, while the Middle East burns, North America sits behind its two oceans, sells its resources to desperate buyers at very high prices, and rebuilds itself. This is not Trump's original idea. This is Putin's idea. Putin already proved this strategy works in Ukraine. Let me explain. Russia started this slow grinding war in Ukraine, and everyone said, Russia is losing, the economy is suffering, the soldiers are dying. What is Putin thinking? But look at what actually happened to the Russian economy since the war started. Industrial production went up, military manufacturing went up massively. Russia started making its own drones. It used to import them from Iran. Now it makes millions of its own. The Russian economy restructured itself into a war economy. And there's a geopolitical thinker. His name is Alexander Dugin, who wrote a book in 1996 called Foundations of Geopolitics. And his argument is this: the Western liberal world order, based on individualism, secularism, consumerism, it's going to collapse. Not maybe. It will collapse because it has no soul. It breaks apart families, communities, identities. It turns everything into money. And eventually people reject it. And when they reject it, the whole system falls apart. His advice to Russia was simple. Don't try to save the Western order. Let it collapse. Just make sure Russia stays unified through nationalism, through religion, through a strong sense of identity. Build alliances with countries that share these values. And when the global order collapses, Russia will still be standing. Putin read this book. And Putin said, you know what? He's right. So let's stop trying to save the world. Let's just make sure Russia survives the collapse better than everyone else. Trump is doing the same thing for America. Trump looked at what Putin is doing and said, actually, that's a really smart strategy. The global order is collapsing anyway. The American empire is collapsing. The dollar system is unsustainable. It's $39 trillion in debt. The inequality is destroying the country. The left and right are at each other's throats. This thing is falling apart. So instead of trying to save it, let's control how it collapses. Let's collapse the old American empire on purpose, and from the ruins, build something new. Not a global empire that spends its money protecting everyone, but a fortress, a self-sufficient North America that sells its resources to a desperate world and takes care of Americans first. This is what Trump means when he says, "Make America great again." Now let me also explain what Trump is moving away from, because this is important context. In 1991, when the Soviet Union collapsed, George H.W. Bush made a speech. He announced the New World Order, and he had three big ideas. First, America would be the financial capital of the world. Wall Street would run everything. America would offshore its manufacturing to China and others and just focus on finance. Second, secular multiculturalism. Forget borders, forget identity, forget religion. Just focus on buying things and making money. Consumerism would keep everyone happy and at peace. Third, Pax Americana. America pays for the defense of the entire world. It opens the Strait of Hormuz. It protects the sea lanes. It keeps the peace. Everyone else free rides while America pays. And this worked for a while. But over time, America stopped making things. China made everything instead. The average American worker got left behind. Inequality exploded. Debt exploded to $39 trillion. The system became a Ponzi scheme. And so Trump says, no more of this. We're moving to the Trump world order. Move from finance back to resources and manufacturing. Move from multiculturalism to Christian nationalism. Move from Pax Americana to MAGA, Fortress America. And to make this transition happen, you have to break the old system. You have to collapse the globalist order. And the fastest way to collapse the globalist order is to start a war in the Middle East that breaks the oil supply, which breaks the petrodollar, which breaks the global financial system, which forces the world to restructure around North American resources. So is Trump an idiot, or is he the most disruptive and in a strange way the most strategic president America has ever had? I'll let you decide. Okay, now, let me be very clear about what happens if the ground invasion goes ahead. Scenario 1. America loses the ground war, which is very likely given what we've discussed. The Iranians push back. American troops get bogged down. The war drags on for years. Casualties mount. Political will in America collapses. America is forced to withdraw. Result: the American military empire is finished in the Middle East. The petrodollar collapses. The dollar loses its global reserve currency status. The global economy goes into a serious depression. But, and here's the twist, North America, with its oil, food, water, and resources, becomes the most stable and powerful region in a very unstable world. And Trump rebuilds America as a resource-exporting fortress while the rest of the world scrambles. Scenario 2. America somehow holds on in Iran for years. A long war of attrition, similar to what Russia is doing in Ukraine. The global economy suffers for a long time. Oil stays high, food stays expensive. But slowly, North America builds its technate. And the same result, North America emerges stronger while the old order dies. Either way, the old global order ends. Either way, North America becomes more self-sufficient and more powerful. Either way, the world becomes more dependent on American and Russian energy and food. And either way, the Iranian people, the Middle Eastern people, the global poor pay the heaviest price. Okay? So let me summarize what we learned today, because there's a lot. Point 1. A ground invasion of Iran is logistically extremely difficult. The terrain is brutal. The distances are huge. Iran has been preparing for this specific scenario for 25 years. Point 2. If the invasion happens, Iran will escalate fully. Oil goes to $200. Not just oil. Food, fertilizers, semiconductors, all face shortages. The global economy collapses. Point 3. But, and this is the key insight, America may actually benefit from this collapse in the long run, because the world becomes dependent on North American resources. And Trump uses this crisis to justify building the technate, a self-sufficient North American fortress. Point 4. This is not a random strategy. Putin already proved it works in Ukraine. Trump read the same playbook, Dugin's Third Rome vision, and is applying it to North America. Point 5. The real question is not whether Trump is an idiot. The real question is, who pays the price for this strategy? And the answer is ordinary people. Americans who get drafted, Iranians who get bombed, people in poor countries who can't afford food, the global south that had nothing to do with any of this. That is the tragedy of empire. It is always the ordinary people who pay, and it is always the powerful who benefit. Okay? So that is my analysis for today. This is not prophecy. This is game theory. This is structural history. I want you to think about this. Question it. Look at the evidence yourself. And remember, the most important thing is not to accept what I'm saying. The most important thing is to develop your own framework for understanding how the world works.